All right, welcome everybody to this YouTube live. As obviously a lot of news to discuss. Oh, why? Hold on one second here. Why am I hearing myself? Oh, I know why I'm hearing myself because I had the channel on in the background. Okay, now we're back. Now I have full concentration and ready to go. Yeah, a lot of news to discuss that broke um, via Mike Silver and Diana Rossini as I was on my way home from Santa Clara. But interestingly enough, um, I had just spoken to some people on this very subject, and so um, the thing, like the major point here with as it pertains to the Brandon Ayuk situation is that according to the reporting of Silver and Rossini, Brandon Ayuk is not fighting this. And that is really relevant because it just kind of makes it sound as if this is final. That the contract that the 49ers voided, or at least the guarantees the 49ers voided, Brandon Ayuk, according to the reporting, has said, that's he accepts that. And so this is how Diana Rossini reported it, how she worded it. Brandon Aiyuk, according to multiple league sources, told NFLPA reps, that's the union reps, in a meeting that he did not want to fight the 49ers voiding of his 2026 guaranteed money via an official grievance. That would clear the way for his expected release. So yeah, it was, I think the sense was the 49ers were ready to move on from Brandon Aiyuk. The question was exactly how that would look. In my 49ers overreactions on Tuesday, someone had noted, or the overreaction, which I deemed not an overreaction at all, was that Brandon Aiyuk has played his final game for the 49ers. And I said, no. What I said was, the NFL moves fast, and you don't know how it's going to turn out. And so that's where we are. Things fell apart, and I think you could even see things falling apart before the contract was signed last year. My reporting last year in August of 2024 was that the 49ers had given permission to Brandon Aiyuk to talk to Cleveland, New England, Washington, and Pittsburgh about trades. The 49ers had trades worked out with Cleveland and New England. I think I even reported on the compensation that they were looking for from those teams. Pittsburgh, I don't think they ever quite worked out a deal with them. I think they were getting closer. The 49ers, I know, were asking for a second and third round pick for Aiyuk. In the case of Cleveland, they were going to get a second and a fifth round pick along with Amari Cooper. And then New England, in that deal, I don't know what the draft picks were off the top of my head, or I forget what they were, but Kendrick Bourne would have been coming over from New England. So, I think hindsight being 2020, of course, the 49ers would not have signed him to that contract, a 4-year, $120 million contract extension through the year 2028. But as it turns out, they didn't sign him to a 4-year, $120 million contract through 2028. They signed him, in essence, to a 2-year, $48.9 million contract through the season 2025. And that's because of the guaranteed money that he was scheduled to make next season. And by voiding it, the 49ers have absolved themselves of any commitment to make that money. So in essence, other than the weekly paychecks that Brandon Aiyuk receives from the 49ers as part of his salary this season, as he remains on the PUP list, other than that, 49ers don't have any future financial responsibilities to him. So what that means is for next season, he was scheduled to make $24.935 million with an option bonus. And then his base salary was $1.2 million. And then he had workout bonuses and roster bonuses totaling $850,000. So that's a total of $27 million in guarantees that the 49ers have voided from Brandon Aiyuk's contract. And again, according to the reporting of Diana and Mike, he told the NFLPA that he did not want to fight that. So what that does is it opens the door. It pretty much, greases the skids for the 49ers to release him. Then the question is, well, what does that do for the 49ers salary cap? He will count $29.585 million in dead money. That's money already paid to him. That's the $29 million out of the basically $49 million that he's already received from the 49ers, but just hasn't counted against the cap. So that could be, in essence, just to make it simple, let's just call it $30 million in dead money. That could be either all $30 million next year going against the cap, or if they designate him a post June 1 release, in essence, split it in half, 15 and 15. It's not quite that, but just for sake of keeping it simple. So here's the clause in the contract. I do have a copy of Brandon Aiyuk's contract, but the clause is, as far as that option, the option exercise fee of 25.9, which the 49ers have now voided. In the contract, it says that he gets that money in adherence to all provisions of the contract, including, without limitations, timely reporting to and active participation in camps, meetings, practices, games, and other activities, and when instructed by team without interruption or suspension. So what was reported in The Athletic was that he was missing meetings. What I reported was the 49ers actually enacted this in training camp. I've heard early in training camp. So this has been kind of looming over him and the team for quite some time. So if there was certainly not an urgency for Brandon Aiyuk to get on the field, if that was perceived or reality or whatever the case may be, that's a pretty good indication of why. Now, what he sustained last season was a very serious injury, tears to the ACL, the MCL, as well as cartilage damage. So there's no question that it's a difficult injury to come back from. What Kyle Shanahan said last week was that because of the seriousness of the injury, you got to wait until the player's comfortable enough to come back. So quite clearly, he has not signed off on returning to action. The question is, will he? As wild as it sounds, and as unlikely as it is, I don't think the 49ers have fully closed the door on him returning to action. And you can shut me off right there if you think that's ridiculous. But do I think he's going to play this season? I don't, but I don't know that for sure. I have not spoken to Brandon, so I don't know what his mindset is, where he is just in life, where he is, what he's thinking, what his end game is. I don't know any of that, but it's not like the 49ers right now are getting fantastic wide receiver play from some of the guys who are out there. Obviously they think highly of Juwan Jennings. They think highly of Ricky Pearsall. But could Aiyuk help the team? Well, he could help the team if he's healthy and he's able to play at a high level. If he's able to play anywhere near the level that he played at in 2023, of course he could help the 49ers. But Is he ready to fit into the team? Is he ready to be a team player? All that stuff. That's why I think it's highly unlikely. But Kyle Shanahan will speak to the media a little bit later today on Saturday as the 49ers get prepared for their Monday night game against the Carolina Panthers. And my guess is that he will not rule out a return of Brandon Aiyuk this season. He hasn't up to this point, and really from the team standpoint, nothing has changed today from yesterday or the day before or the day before that. Like I noted, this was all stuff that happened early in training camp, and so why is it coming out now, or why didn't anybody know about it? Well, I mean, people around the periphery did know about this. They knew about the fines the 49ers were giving Aiyuk as well. But it's just, corroboration. There wasn't a paper trail on this from what I understand in speaking to agents leading up to this, was that if a contract is voided, like the 49ers enacted that clause to void the contract, and I'm sure they didn't go into that lightly. I'm sure that they made sure through the management council and everything else that this was an appropriate step to take. That is handled between player and the team. So it's nothing that goes out where other agents can see it or other teams can see it. But that is a fact. It did happen. And again, I'll continue to cite Silver and Rossini on this. Brandon Aiyuk has decided not to fight it. So I think that answers a lot of the questions that are out there. One question is, what's the 49ers? How much culpability? How much are they to blame in this? And I would say this. I would say that I know a year ago when I started reporting on the trade talks the 49ers were having, my thought was that the 2024 season, where the 49ers were loading up to make a run, that they were there was no way they could be a better team last year without Brandon Aiyuk on the team. Now, quite clearly, having this contract done the way it was done, the warning signs were there. Could they have picked up on this possibility that this would happen? Of course, we didn't know he was going to sustain an injury week 7, but could they have picked up on the possibility that Brandon Aiyuk wouldn't be a long-term member of the team? Absolutely. Should they have? Probably. So that's where I stand on, I don't know. The problem about the trade or the trades that they were talking to, because Aiyuk was entering the final year of his contract, none of these teams that were going to trade for him would have traded for him without his consent and without a contract already agreed to, a contract extension already agreed to. And from what I understand, Cleveland had a contract that they had already agreed to. New England had a contract they had already agreed to with Aiyuk, and Pittsburgh as well. But ultimately, Aiyuk didn't want to go to Cleveland or New England at those stages. And I think he was open, very open to going to Pittsburgh and Washington. But from what I understood, Washington had removed themselves from the picture and Pittsburgh remained in. The famous story when, after Ricky Pearsall was shot, the 49ers had presented Aiyuk with an offer, the final offer, and about 3 weeks went by until he signed that contract. And as the story goes, Shanahan talked to Aiyuk and was like, what do you want to do here? Let's, either sign the deal or we'll trade you. And Aiyuk decided at that point in that meeting that he was going to go ahead and sign the contract. And Shanahan rushed upstairs to make sure that no trade had been finalized and that he would be remaining with the team. And so whether the 49ers get right now 7 games, not a whole lot of production, and $48.9 million. One other point I want to make is that, and this isn't my these aren't my numbers. Let me find the exact numbers here because I know I have them. But a lot was made about, the 49ers and cutting costs for last year. They remain I think one of the fallacies is, or one of the misperceptions, is that, let me just find these numbers here. Was that the 49ers? I think it is here. Yeah, that the 49ers aren't spending money. And I just want to share some numbers with you. Remember, so last year when the offseason started, or the new league year started, they cut so many players, and they cut all those defensive linemen, Malik Collins, Javon Hargrave, and Leonard Floyd. And then, they watched as Dre Greenlaw and Charvarius Ward and Talanoa Hufanga and Aaron Banks signed with other teams. And so, the thought was they're being really cheap. They're not spending money. The money part of it, the 49ers then, of course, signed to long-term lucrative contract extensions, Kittle, Warner, and Purdy. And so this year, the 49ers, this is according to Spot Track, the 49ers rank 4th in the NFL in cash spending. So they, for this year, are spending $52 million over the salary cap. You might wonder, well, how can that be? It's just because of the way the deals are structured, where a lot of the money, guaranteed money, upfront money, doesn't count against the cap initially, but over the course of those contracts, it will count against the cap. And so last year, the 49ers were second out of 32 teams in cash spending. And then from 2018 to 2023, the 49ers ranked, again, in cash spending, 7th, 3rd, 5th, 19th, and 6th. So it's quite clear. I think someone told me, and I haven't run the numbers, someone told me that it felt like maybe the Eagles had spent more over the cap than the 49ers have during the last 5 years. But as you can tell, the 49ers are right up there in the league as far as cash spending. So the takeaway is, with this Aiyuk contract and the fact, I shouldn't say a fact because they haven't done it yet, but I see virtually no chance, like zero chance, that Aiyuk will be on the team next season. But it hurts them on the salary cap because of the dead money, but it's money that's already been spent and accounted for. An example of that would be Deebo Samuel. They signed him to the long-term contract, of course, and that also really didn't work out. And the 49ers traded him to Washington, and so they're absorbing, I think it's $31 million in dead money this year. They're not paying him anything. It's just money that's had already been paid to him, and now it counts against the salary cap. Okay. So that's my preamble to get you going here on this Saturday morning. And I see some, let me see here. Let me go straight here to Bill. Is it Kaneda 9554? Thank you so much for that, for the shout out there, Bill. I really appreciate it. Has BA made a statement yet? No. Brandon Aiyuk hasn't been around. I've been looking for him for several weeks. He hasn't been in the locker room. As I understand, he does his workouts early in the morning and then takes off. I don't think he's been going to games at Levi's Stadium. And so he hasn't really been around during the time when the media is around. So to my knowledge, he has not made any statement unless he's put something out on social media here. I do know in that story that he wasn't available for comment or did not respond for comment. So he has not said anything publicly on this matter. Silent, thank you very much for your nice gesture there, Silent. I appreciate you. Do you think Pearsall made this an easier decision? No, I think this was something that was going to happen regardless, just based on the rapport right now between team and player. And so, when you look at the 49ers, and you know what I will say, I think that this kind of shows I'd been talking for a while, like the 49ers couldn't make a trade to acquire a player at the trading deadline who was under contract only for this season, especially, if it was going to be a first, second, or third round pick. Because in my mind, kind of knowing, kind of feeling like Aiyuk wasn't going to be on the team, or there was a very good chance he wouldn't be on the team next year. As I see it, the 49ers really needed those first three picks for defensive line, offensive line, and wide receiver. When you look at the 49ers wide receiver position heading into the future, it's Ricky Pearsall, it's Jordan Watkins, and it's Jacob Cowing. Those are the three guys we know will be on the team next year, I would think. Then there's Demarcus Robinson, who will be entering the second year of a 2-year contract. He is getting up there in age. He hasn't made much of a contribution at all. There's Jawan Jennings, who is scheduled for free agency. He was looking for a big money contract. The sides couldn't get together on that this offseason. So if he hits the open market, I would think he would go to the highest bidder. And are the 49ers going to be the highest bidder? I don't know about that. There's also Kendrick Bourne, who's a free agent. So you can see now why the 49ers need an influx of new wide receivers coming in. I've always been of the opinion, if I can get on my soapbox here, that wide receivers are overpaid. I always feel like there's enough good wide receivers coming in from the college ranks every year. Just draft a wide receiver or two every year and never get to the point where you have to pay a guy $30 million. I mean, look what Kansas City did with Tyreek Hill. I mean, it's just one example. I'm sure there's other examples where it pays off to pay a wide receiver. But I just think that the good thing with those draft picks is you can hit those middle rounds, third, fourth round, and get wide receivers who are very darn good, very darn good. That's, what I'm saying. So anyway, that's why I think that was part of the reason why I felt it made no sense whatsoever for the 49ers to give up, a third round pick, even a fourth round pick for a player. Well, basically don't get a player at the trading deadline that was only going to be available for half the season, but also, kind of value those picks because of the needs that the 49ers are going to have this offseason heading into 2026. So again, defensive end, if the 49ers end up coming out of this next draft, and this obviously the draft happens 6 weeks after free agency, but if the 49ers just looking ahead, if the 49ers can come out of this next draft with 2 defensive ends, heck, 2 defensive tackles, a couple of offensive linemen, and a couple of wide receivers, that's probably a pretty good starting point. Okay, well, let me just see if anybody else here jumps out at me. Here's Cam's dad won. Jennifer knew 30 days ago. Yes, she did. I think we all, Jennifer, I think the gist of it was absolutely spot on. I mean, there was discontent. And so Jennifer wrote about how Aiyuk had scrubbed the 49ers from his social media. That got a lot of pushback. And I think maybe the timing was off. He obviously had scrubbed the 49ers from his social media. And so, is that a sign? Was that a sign that things were falling apart? Probably. Certainly hard to argue that point. But yeah, again, thank you, Cam's dad won. Let's just see if there's any other ones that stand out as far as super fans. I don't see anything right now. We've got a lot. Oh, here we go. Nigel Crane, 49ers. Why is BA so unhappy? I don't get it. He got paid. Nigel, I don't know. And I wish I could tell you. I feel, I feel a certain amount of empathy of whatever is happening there. This is a decision that affects him and his family, future generations, by basically forfeiting $27 million for next season. And, will the 49ers be able to trade him? Gosh, I kind of doubt that, right? If they release him, what's that next contract that he signs with another team? What's that going to look like? I would be able to guarantee you one thing. It's not going to look like $27 million, especially coming off of the severe injury that he had. So I can't tell you, I can't speak for Brandon. I'm not going to rip Brandon. I just don't know where he's coming from on this. I don't know what to make of it, because I don't know where like I said, I just don't know where he's coming from and the thought process and certainly don't know all the things that happen behind the scenes, other than, I know the 49ers find him. I repeatedly. I know that whatever they felt he did warranted in their minds the voiding of the guaranteed money for next year. And according to the reporting, whatever he did to prompt the 49ers to void that contract, he's opted not to fight it through arbitration or any kind of grievance. So thank you, Nigel Crane, for that. Oh, here we go. Here's another one. Michael Cervantes, M2E. Is there any scenario where the 49ers promote John and hire a real talent evaluator? He seems to miss on too many draft picks. I don't see that. I think certainly the 49ers, he's the general manager. Obviously, John Lynch has been the general manager. I think the 49ers over the past 6 years have been seen as having one of the best rosters in football. So you don't make any change there if the roster you're putting out there is considered to be deemed to be one of the best rosters in football. And it's a roster with, some whatever future Hall of Famers or borderline Hall of Famers, or let's just say players on the Hall of Fame track. I don't think that you can look at the 49ers and say, boy, the general manager has really failed, when it's a roster with, Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Juszczyk, Trent Williams, George Kittle, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Diamador Lenore. So, they stuck their neck out in the 2021 draft by trading up and trading away future number ones. But, the last two drafts seem to be pretty good. Certainly a couple of years there where the drafts weren't good. They lacking those first round picks, and in some cases first and second round picks. So no, I have not heard any dissatisfaction about the job they're doing, because I think, even looking at the 49ers right now, whenever you have so many high priced players, you've earned that by having so many high priced players. It means the general manager is doing something right. And just think about all the players that had to walk this offseason who now are contributing for other teams. And, the Denver Broncos, 49ers, in a lot of ways through their drafts, were the feeder team for the Denver Broncos. So I think probably if you looked at the 49ers drafts, they're probably as good as any team in the league, better than a lot. And I think that the proof is, the fact that they went to, was it 4 straight NFC Championship games, and they have a couple of Super Bowl appearances during that time. Okay, so that was from Michael Cervantes. I hope that answered your question. And again, what do we have here? Philip Prosey, is that right? Philip, or maybe Philip Rose? Philip, anyway. Philip, thank you so much for that. That's very, very nice of you. Really appreciate that. Okay, let me just kind of keep going down here. See if anything else pops up. Here's Philip. Yeah, but no question from Philip. But Philip, thank you so much for being a great supporter. And then I'm just gonna come down here and see. Did Philip do it again? No, Philip. Okay, I think I've hit the bottom. Okay, so let me just kind of go up to the top here, unless something stands out. Let me just kind of skim through. Let's see here. People don't understand why he's upset. I don't know. The wide receiver room will be interesting. That's from it looks like a San Jose State Spartan. 49ers Throwback says, hey, hit that like button and subscribe, Faithful. Good morning, Matt. Yeah, thank you. Let's see here. Do you know when Aiyuk stopped showing up? Do I know when Aiyuk stopped showing up? Well, I did say that from what I understand, the voiding of the contract happened in training camp, happened early in training camp. The other thing I heard was that basically when we would see him on the field, that was, and a big deal was made of it, a lot of video taken of him on the field when he shouldn't even really have been out on the field because he was on the PUP list. And then, of course, the pregame warmups in Las Vegas, where he wasn't supposed to be out there either. From what I understand, that was about the only times that he was seen out there. Let's see here. Never should have drafted BA. Well, you know what? You can say that, but Brandon Aiyuk was a pretty good player. Before the contract, up until the Super Bowl, I don't think anybody was saying that was a bad draft pick. And what did he have that 2023 season? 1,300 yards. He'd clearly established himself as a number one receiver. He was a really good player. And so I'm not going to go that far to say that was a bad draft pick. For his first 4 NFL seasons, the production was good. I mean, what was the production, you ask? Actually, nobody asked that, but I'm asking it for myself. Let's just kind of look and see what he did here. So drafted in 2020. Excuse me. His first season played in only 12 games, 750 yards receiving, 5 touchdowns. His next season, 2021, 826 yards and 5 touchdowns. 2022, 78 receptions for 1,015 yards and 8 touchdowns. And then 2023, 75 catches for 1,342 yards and 7 touchdowns. So I don't think that you would look back on that and say, what a bad pick. I would say that, hindsight being 2020, it was signing him to that long-term contract. Although it turned out, as I said, it wasn't a 4-year, $120 million contract extension. It ended up being 2 years, not even $50 million. So he was scheduled to make $30 million a year over 4 years. He ended up making, in essence, $24.5 million over 2 years, 24.5 average over 2 years. How are we on time here? We've been going at this about 35 minutes. Do the 49ers retain his rights through 2028? Well, I guess technically they do, but once they release him, then they won't retain his rights. Let's see here. Money changed him. The front office had caved in, got another break. The team has a lot of internal issues for several years now with different players. Let's see. Now Simons. Yep. Do you like? Let's see. What we got here? I think we've covered just about everything here, unless something pops out. Here's from. I bet you are so glad you covered the 49ers, Mr. Mayoko. Never a dull moment. Well, you're absolutely right. Yeah, there rarely is a dull moment covering this team. And so, yeah, I with the Aiyuk situation, there's always these situations where you're like, I wonder how this is going to end. You knew that it was going to end, but just how? Like, what's the avenue that ends this thing? And now we know. Now we absolutely know 49ers no longer owe him $27 million that they would have owed him last season or next season in 2026. And so that very much is the precursor for the 49ers parting ways with him in the offseason. Let's see here. All right. I think we've someone asked about Cowing and Watkins. Those are two guys. Jacob Cowing hasn't been on the field yet. I haven't mentioned Sky Moore. Sky Moore is also a free agent to be at the end of the season. But yeah, Cowing hasn't appeared on the field yet. I think Jordan Watkins showed some things. Both of those guys showed some things in the offseason program for Cowing and training camp for Watkins. And so I would assume, they'll be on the team next year, or at least they'll be in training camp competing for roles, whether starter, backup for Cowing, slot receiver, possible return specialist, that kind of thing. They'll add some. They need to add some wide receivers, whether it's going out and getting a free agent. I can't imagine that they would pay much money at all for a veteran guy to come in, but I think the draft is where they're going to have to look. And that's why I think they were so reluctant. And I think it was the wise move not to part ways with any draft picks. We have another one here. Oh, here we go. Travioso 00. Should the 49ers have released some of the older players for cap space and gave BA a top 3 wide receiver contract? Well, should the 49ers have released some of their other players for cap space and gave BA a top 3 wide receiver contract? Well, clearly they should not have given him a big, again, hindsight being what it is, quite clearly they should not have given him that big contract. As far as releasing some of the other players, when I talked about, the cutting costs, but still being top 4 in money spent this offseason. Deebo Samuel's another guy who was had a contract coming up, and the 49ers traded him to Washington. So they did get rid of some of their higher priced players. Not the superstars, guys that they deemed on the downside, but this offseason, they did retain Warner, Kittle, Purdy, as well as, McCaffrey, Trent Williams, Bosa, all the guys that, stay with the team, some injured, of course, Bosa and Warner. But I think, quite clearly, any move the 49ers made to retain Brandon Aiyuk last year can a year later be looked back on as a definite mistake. No doubt about it. Let's see. I think that's probably what we got. If there's any other questions here that pop out, nothing stands out. Let me just see here. Here's just one. Kyle's conference today will be interesting. Yeah, I would agree. That it would be interesting to see hear what he has to say. Again, I think, none of this is new to the 49ers. It's new to the public, but none of this is new. So every time I've asked about Brandon Aiyuk, and his answer is, you're anticipating opening the window for him. Got to wait until he's comfortable. I don't think, the news of yesterday doesn't change anything, because nothing has changed. I would be, obviously, the 49ers would have to be reluctant to open the window for him. But if they open the window for him, the practice window off the physically unable to perform list, if they open the window for him, they'll see how he's practicing. And if he is not practicing the way they want, I would assume he would be running scout team for the first couple of weeks. And if he is not, say at the end of, okay, so let me backtrack here. He's on the physically unable to perform list. The 49ers can bring him off that list at any point after week 4. They haven't done that yet. If they open the practice window for him, and that has to start with Brandon Aiyuk saying, hey, I'm ready to play. Let's do this. When and if they open the practice window for him, they have 21 days to make a decision. They would see how he's practicing. If he's not practicing, if he's whatever, if he's somebody that after watching him practice for a couple of weeks, if they decide, oh my gosh, we need to move on now, or man, he's practicing hard, we can use him down the stretch of this season. Why would he practice hard? Why would he try to get back on the field? It would be to raise his profile and try to get a contract with some team for next season. Why would he not want to do much? Because the 49ers have already voided the contract, and they've signaled to him that you're not going to be part of the long-term future here. Okay, so if they open the practice window for him, he has 3 weeks, and the 49ers have 3 weeks to decide whether they really want to play him this season. And again, all this is speculative because they haven't opened the practice window for him, and there's no indication when or if they will. But at the end of 3 weeks, the 49ers have one of 3 decisions to make. Is it just 3? Anyway, I'll count them off here. One would be activate him to the 53-man roster. That would make him eligible to play in games. The other one would be he's not healthy. He won't be healthy. Keep him on PUP for the remainder of the season. And then the third would be flat out release him. And releasing him was something that wasn't really a possibility if he still had that guaranteed option bonus for next season. Because if you released him, you still owed him that money. But now, since that has been voided, it opens that as a realistic possibility if they open the practice window for him. All right. I think this has pretty much run its course. A lot of Brandon Aiyuk talk, all Brandon Aiyuk talk. Again, thanks to everybody for your generosity. Very, very nice of you all. I just wanted to get on this. I saw how much traction my video yesterday on Aiyuk was getting. So I felt like it was probably a good thing to get out there and get in front of this and answer some questions, um, which um, which I hope you found useful and helpful, and I hope that brings a little bit of clarity to the situation. I don't know why I pronounced it like that. It's clarity, not clarity. So anyway, thanks so much for watching this video, and let's see here. Well, here's another question. Matt, is there any chance Ayuk is doing the 49ers a favor and letting the team cut him? Well, of course. Yeah, he's doing them a favor. Now, he didn't want to do the team a favor. I wouldn't think. By doing the team a favor, it means taking a guaranteed $27 million for himself and his family out of his pocket. Money that was guaranteed. It was guaranteed when he signed that contract. And now, having voided that contract, but the 49ers voiding the guaranteed money, and again, the reporting of The Athletic that he's not fighting it. Yeah, it's kind of it's just, I don't know. It's a head scratcher. But anyway, am I going to go live after the Kyle presser? Probably not. I'll probably do something I'll probably tape another one of these, but not a live. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this YouTube live. I hope I answered all of your questions. I appreciate all the support that you all have given me, and it's very, very kind of you. And I guess, as I say, that is it for now.